Hey there, wizards and muggles alike tonight. We're diving into a theory so bold, it might just shatter your sorting hat. You're the man who defeated Grindelwald, mentored Harry Potter, and handed out lemon drops like they were currency. But let's dim the lights, silence the chatter of the Great Hall, and ask a question that's been whispering through the corridors of fandom like a rogue boggart. Are you really the hero everyone thinks, or are you Harry Potter's most cunning, most evil villain? Before you settle into your comfiest armchair, take a moment to like this video, subscribe if you're ready to unravel the truth, and drop a comment below. Tell us, is Dumbledore a saint or a schemer? And where in the world are you watching from? Now let's step into your robes to see if the man behind the half-moon spectacles is as pure as phoenix tears, or as dark as a Death Eater's soul. Picture this. You're standing in your office at Hogwarts, the air thick with the scent of old parchment and candle wax. Portraits of past headmasters snooze on the walls, their snores a gentle rhythm against the crackle of the fire. Fawkes, your phoenix, preens on his perch, casting a warm glow that dances across your desk cluttered with quills, a pensieve and a bowl of those blasted lemon drops you can't stop offering. Outside the castle hums with life students laughing owls, hooting the whomping willow, giving some poor first year a bad day. You're the Dumbledore everyone loves, wise kind, a bit eccentric, with a knack for saying profound things like, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times. The wizarding world looks to you as a beacon, the one who'll save them from Voldemort's shadow. But beneath that twinkling gaze, behind that benevolent smile, there's a mind sharper than a goblin-forged blade, spinning plans so intricate they'd make Aragog's web look like a toddler's doodle. And those plans, they revolve around a boy with a lightning scar, a boy you've been shaping like clay since before he could say Quidditch. You've got a reputation as Harry's protector, the grandfatherly figure who swoops in with cryptic advice and a twinkle in your eye. But let's be real, your version of protection is about as comforting as a Dementor's kiss. You're not just guiding Harry, you're orchestrating his life, every step, every scar, every tear. From the moment you left him on that cold Privet Drive doorstep, you've been pulling strings like a master puppeteer, and Harry's the marionette, dancing to your tune. You're not saving him out of pure love. You're crafting a weapon to defeat Voldemort, and if that means breaking a kid's heart or risking his life, well, that's just the price of the greater good, isn't it? You tell yourself it's noble, that the wizarding world's survival depends on it, but there's a chill in your bones that whispers otherwise. You're not just a hero with tough choices. You might be the villain who's been hiding in plain sight, cloaked in benevolence and a really good beard. Let's rewind to that fateful night in 1981. You're standing in Godric's Hollow, the air heavy with grief and the acrid tang of dark magic. James and Lily Potter lie dead, their home a smouldering ruin. Baby Harry, barely a year old, wails in his crib, a lightning-shaped scar fresh on his forehead. You know what happened. Voldemort's curse rebounded, thanks to Lily's sacrifice, and the Dark Lord's gone for now. You could take Harry to a loving wizarding family somewhere warm, safe, filled with laughter. Instead, you choose Privet Drive, home of the Dursleys' Petunia, who'd rather spit on magic than embrace it, and Vernon, who'd sell his soul for a quieter lawnmower. You know they'll hate Harry, maybe starve him, lock him in a cupboard. You've got Mrs. Fig watching Shaw, but she's more about cats than child welfare. Why do it? You mutter something about blood protection. Lily's love shielding Harry from Voldemort. Noble, right? Except you're sentencing a toddler to a decade of abuse, and you don't even check in. It's like tossing a lamb into a wolf den and calling it strategy. That's not protection. That's the first spark of your villainy. Now fast forward. Harry's at Hogwarts, wide-eyed wand in hand, thinking you're his saviour. You let him face dangers no kid should. Trolls, three-headed dogs, a professor with Voldemort on his head. You could have stepped in, but no, you watch from the shadows, letting him stumble, bleed, grow stronger. Why? Because you know the prophecy, neither can live while the other survives. Harry's tied to Voldemort and you're grooming him for a fight to the death. You keep the truth locked tight, dribbling out hints like breadcrumbs for a starving sparrow. By his 5th year, you're ignoring him entirely, letting him drown in anger and grief, all to toughen him up. You know he's a Horcrux, that he might have to die to end Voldemort. So you shape him hero worship, loyalty, courage until he's ready to walk to his grave for you. You tell yourself he might survive thanks to that blood protection loophole, but let's not kid ourselves, you're gambling with a kid's life, and the odds aren't exactly Gryffindor-level optimism. Your past doesn't help your case. You weren't always the saintly headmaster. Back in the day, you were chummy with Gellert Grindelwald, dreaming of wizard supremacy, muggle enslavement, the whole greater good shtick. Your sister Ariana died in the fallout, and that guilt's been your shadow ever since. You swear you've changed, but have you? You're still making sacrifices, still playing God, just with better candy. You let Hogwarts burn during crises. Basilisk attacks, Umbridge's reign, vanishing when you're needed most. You let Harry compete in the Triwizard Tournament, a death trap because it fits your plan. You even trained young Tom Riddle, ignoring his snake-charming red flags, and look how that turned out. Every move you make screams control, secrecy, a willingness to break hearts for a bigger picture only you can see. You're not just a mentor, you're a chess master, and Harry's the pawn you're ready to sacrifice. But here's the kicker. You don't see yourself as evil. You're not cackling like Bellatrix or plotting world domination. You believe in the greater good, in saving the world from Voldemort's reign. You've got regrets, Ariana's death, Snape's pain, Harry's scars, but you tell yourself it's necessary. The wizarding world needs you right. Except as you sit in your office, the pensive swirling with memories, you can't shake the question. When does necessity become cruelty? When does a hero become a villain? You've saved lives, sure, but you've also shattered them. Harry's trust, Snape's heart, even your own soul fractured by choices you can't undo. You're not Voldemort with his snake eyes and murder sprees, but maybe that's what makes you dangerous. You're the villain who smiles, offers a sweet and whispers, "It's for the best." So as you stand in Hogwarts glow, wand in hand, the weight of your choices heavier than a dragon's hoard. Let's ask again. Are you Harry's saviour or his most evil villain? The answer's not simple, and that's why we're here. Over the next 11 parts, we'll peel back your layers, your secrets, your sacrifices, your sins, to see if the man who shaped Harry Potter's destiny deserves a halo or a hex. You've been called a hero, a legend, but heroes don't leave babies in cupboards or raise boys for slaughter. Or do they comment below with your verdict and stick with us as we unravel your story one spell at a time? You shaped Harry's life, but at what cost? Let's find out if the wizarding world's greatest hope was its darkest schemer. You're standing on Privet Drive, the night air sharp with November chill, a bundle in your arms that's more than just a baby. It's the wizarding world's last hope. Harry Potter, barely a year old, sleeps fitfully, his tiny scar, a jagged reminder of the night his parents died. You could whisk him to the burrow where Molly Weasley would smother him with love, or to any wizarding family eager to raise the boy who lived. But no, you've chosen number 4 Privet Drive, home of Petunia and Vernon Dursley, a pair so allergic to magic they'd rather burn a wand than touch it. You know Petunia's bitterness, her jealousy of Lily's gifts, and Vernon's temper loud as a Muggle car horn. You're about to leave Harry on their doorstep, a letter tucked into his blankets, and walk away. It's for his safety. You tell yourself Lily's sacrifice created a blood protection that only Petunia's home can sustain. But as you set him down, the cobwebs in the porchlight glinting like tiny warnings, you can't ignore the truth. You're sentencing a child to a decade of misery, and you're doing it with a flick of your wand and a heavy heart. The Dursleys don't disappoint. You've got Arabella Figg, your squib neighbour, keeping an eye out, but her reports are more about her cats than Harry's welfare. You know he's sleeping in a cupboard under the stairs, a space barely fit for broomsticks, let alone a boy. You hear whispers of Vernon's bellows, Petunia's sharp tongue, and Dudley's fists turning Harry into a punching bag before he's old enough to spell his name. He's starved not just of food, though his meals are scraps compared to Dudley's feasts, but of love, of warmth, of anything resembling a family. You could intervene, send Hagrid to scare some sense into them, or at least drop off a few extra sandwiches charmed to multiply. But you don't. You stay silent, your office at Hogwarts, a world away, the pensive glowing with memories you'd rather not face. Why? Because Harry's suffering, you reason, is the price of his survival. The blood protection keeps Voldemort at bay, and a tough childhood will forge the resilience he'll need to face the Dark Lord. It's logical, strategic, but it's also cold as a Dementor's breath. Picture Harry at 5 scrawny glasses taped together, hiding in the garden to escape Dudley's gang. He's got no idea he's a wizard, no clue about the scar that makes him famous. You know this, and it suits your plan. A boy raised in ignorance, unaware of his destiny, won't be swayed by fame or power. You want him humble, hungry, ready to fight for a world he barely knows. But let's be honest, you're not just shaping a hero, you're breaking a child. The Dursleys' cruelty isn't just neglect, it's abuse, and you're complicit. You could have placed wards to soften their hearts, or checked in yourself disguised as a kindly neighbour with a knack for fixing broken spirits. Instead, you let Harry grow up thinking he's worthless, his only friends the spiders in his cupboard. It's like tossing a seedling into rocky soil and expecting it to bloom without water. You call it protection, but it smells more like punishment. You tell yourself, it's for the greater good, that phrase, that's been your mantra since your Grindelwald days. You're not cruel, not like Voldemort, who'd kill Harry without a second thought. You're saving him right. The blood protection is real. Voldemort's touch would burn Harry if he tried to strike now. But as you sip tea in your office, Fawkes tilting his head like he's judging you, you can't shake the guilt. You've seen Harry's memories in the pensive, the locked cupboard, the hand-me-down clothes, the birthdays forgotten. You know Petunia's slaps sting as much as her words, and Vernon's threats are a daily ritual. You could have sent McGonagall to whisk him away for weekends, or Hagrid to teach him about magic early. Instead, you let him fester, a boy whose only magic is surviving a home that hates him. It's not just about safety, it's about control. You need Harry vulnerable, dependent, so when he finally learns he's a wizard, He'll cling to Hogwarts to you like a lifeline. Now imagine you're watching Harry at 10, chasing a letter that floats through the Dursleys' chimney. He's desperate, eyes wide with hope, not knowing it's you're doing your charmed letters, ensuring he gets to Hogwarts. You've orchestrated this moment, the first spark of his new life. But it's not kindness driving you. You need him at school under your watchful eye, where you can mould him into the weapon the prophecy demands. You're not saving him from the Dursleys out of pity. You're moving a chess piece into position. When Hagrid bursts through that hut on the rock door telling Harry he's a wizard, it's your script playing out. You've planned every beat from the awe in Harry's eyes to the Dursleys' sputtering rage. You're giving him a taste of freedom, but it's laced with purpose. He's not just a student, he's your chosen one, and you've already decided his path will be paved with pain. You're not blind to the cost. Late at night when Hogwarts sleeps, you wander the astronomy tower, the stars above sharper than your conscience. You think of Ariana, your sister lost, because of your ambition, and wonder if Harry's another casualty of your grand plans. You could have raised him yourself, taught him spells by the Black Lake, shown him the love he craves. But that would have made him soft, you argue, unfit for the war ahead. You need him tough, forged in neglect like a sword in a fire. It's a grim calculus, one boy's misery for the world's salvation. You tell yourself it's necessary that Voldemort's return demands a saviour shaped by hardship. But as you finger the Elder Wand, its power humming like a warning, you can't help but question. Is this strategy, or are you just afraid to care too much? You've lost people before Ariana, your parents, and maybe keeping Harry at arm's length is easier than risking another heartbreak. The Dursleys weren't your only choice. You could have found a loophole, some charm to extend Lily's protection to a kinder home. You're Dumbledore for Merlin's sake. You've outwitted dark wizards and ministry bureaucrats. But you didn't. You chose the path of least resistance, the one that kept Harry alive but broken. It's like building a fortress with a child's bones as the foundation. You know the Dursleys' hatred will scar him, make him doubt his worth, but you bank on that doubt, driving him to prove himself. When he arrives at Hogwarts shy but brave, you see it worked. He's loyal, eager, ready to fight. But at what cost? You've created a hero, but you've also created a boy who thinks love is a luxury he doesn't deserve. You're not just protecting him, you're programming him. And the wizarding world's applause drowns out the quiet voice asking if you've gone too far. As you sit in your office, the portrait's muttering about your latest chess move, you can't ignore the truth. Harry's childhood was your first sacrifice. You left him in a house that wasn't a home, knowing it would hurt, because you believed pain would make him strong. It's a villain's logic cloaked in a hero's robes. You're not cackling over a cauldron, but you're still playing with lives, and Harry's just the start. You'll keep secrets, let him face monsters, even prepare him to die, all because you think it's right. But as Fawkes sings a mournful note, you wonder, when does the greater good become an excuse? You've left Harry to suffer, and the scar on his forehead isn't the only one you've given him. You're standing in your office at Hogwarts, the fire casting long shadows across the stone walls, the air heavy with the scent of old books and secrets. The pensive glows faintly on your desk, its silvery contents swirling with memories you'd rather keep buried. Outside the forbidden forest whispers in the night, but your mind is on a boy with a lightning scar. now 11 and wide-eyed, stepping into the Great Hall for the first time. Harry Potter, the boy who lived, is finally where you need him, under your roof. Your rules, your plan. You've known since that night in Godric's Hollow that he's tied to Voldemort by a prophecy, a riddle spoken in Trelawney's trembling voice. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Neither can live while the other survives. You've held this truth close, a weight heavier than the Elder Wand in your pocket, and you've decided Harry can't know, not yet, maybe not ever. You'll keep him in the dark, drip-feeding hints like potion ingredients, because you believe ignorance will keep him safe, pliable, ready to become the hero you've envisioned. But as you watch him from behind your half-moon spectacles, his sorting hat moment unfolding, you know this secrecy is more than protection, it's control, and it's the next step in a path that might just make you the villain of his story. The prophecy is your burden, a secret you've guarded since before Harry was born. You heard it in that smoky pub, Trelawney's eyes glassy, her voice echoing with fate's cold certainty. It named Harry, or possibly Neville, as the one destined to face Voldemort, a child marked by the Dark Lord himself. You could have shared it with Harry's parents, warned them fully, maybe saved them. Instead, you let events unfold, Snape's betrayal and Lily's sacrifice sealing Harry's fate. Now, as Harry sits at the Gryffindor table, oblivious to the destiny you've mapped out, you choose silence again. You tell yourself it's kindness. He's too young, too fragile for such a weight. But deep down, you know better. Knowledge is power, and you're hoarding it, keeping Harry dependent on your guidance. It's like giving him a broomstick with no instructions and expecting him to fly. You're not just protecting him, you're steering him, ensuring he follows your script without questioning the plot. Picture Harry's first year stumbling through Hogwarts dangers like a lamb in a dragon's den. You know Voldemort's lurking tethered to Quirrell's body, hunting the Philosopher's Stone. You could intervene, whisk the stone away, or confront Quirrell yourself. But no, you let Harry face it. Trolls in bathrooms, a three-headed dog, a mirror that tempts his heart. You're watching, always watching from the shadows of your office or through the portrait's gossip. When Harry nearly dies facing Quirrell, you swoop in at the last moment, all twinkling eyes and cryptic praise. Well done, Harry, you say. But it's not about his bravery. It's about testing him, hardening him for the war. You know is coming. You're not saving him from danger. You're throwing him into it like a blacksmith tossing iron into the forge. Each scar, each near death is a hammer strike shaping him into your weapon. Your secrecy has consequences, and they pile up like galleons in Gringotts. By Harry's 5th year, your silence about the prophecy pushes him to the edge. You know he's seeing visions, Voldemort's mind bleeding into his, but you keep your distance, ignoring him to protect him from Snape's occlumency failures. You tell yourself it's strategy. Harry needs to be resilient, not coddled. But your absence leaves him angry, isolated, drowning in grief for Sirius, who dies because Harry rushed to the ministry, misled by a vision you could have prevented. You finally reveal the prophecy, then in your office, the air thick with regret. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the 7th month dies, you intone, watching Harry's face crumple. You admit you've known for years that you chose not to tell him to spare his childhood. But spare him. You've let him stumble into traps. Face monsters lose loved ones. all because you decided he wasn't ready for the truth. It's like handing him a puzzle with half the pieces missing and blaming him for not solving it. You're not naive. You know withholding the prophecy isn't just about timing, it's about control. If Harry knew his fate early, he might rebel, seek his own path, maybe even run. You need him loyal, trusting, ready to follow your lead, even into death. You've seen the prophecy's full weight, one must die at the hand of the other. You suspect Harry's a Horcrux, a piece of Voldemort's soul lodged in him, meaning his death might be necessary to end the Dark Lord. So you keep him ignorant, feeding him just enough to keep him moving forward. Stories of his parents, hints of his power, a sense that you believe in him. It's manipulation dressed as mentorship, and you're a master at it. You're like a Quidditch coach who hides the snitch's location, letting your seeker crash into bludgers to build character. Harry's trust in you is your greatest asset, and you're spending it like a gambler at a goblin casino. But let's pause in your office, the fire crackling, Fawkes tilting his head like he sees through your excuses. You're not Voldemort hissing with malice. You believe this secrecy is necessary, that Harry's too young to bear the prophecy's burden. You've lost too much, your sister, your family, to risk Harry's spirit breaking under the truth. You tell yourself you're giving him a chance at normalcy, a few years of friendship and Quidditch before the war claims him. But as you sip your tea, the bitter taste lingers. You've let Harry face dangers you could have prevented, let Sirius die, because you didn't trust Harry with the full story. Your secrecy isn't just protection, it's a cage keeping Harry, where you need him ready to fight to die for a cause he barely understands. You're not just guiding him, you're scripting his life, and every line you withhold tightens the noose. You've got justifications, of course. The wizarding world's at stake, Voldemort's shadow growing darker. You've seen what happens when heroes falter, Grindelwald's rise, your own failures. Harry's the only one who can end this, and you're shaping him to be strong, selfless, a Gryffindor through and through. But as you gaze into the pensive Harry's memories of loss flickering like ghosts, you can't ignore the cost. Your silence has hurt him, pushed him into corners where he's had to grow up too fast. You're not just keeping the prophecy from him, you're keeping him from choosing his own path. It's a villain's trick cloaked in a hero's twinkle. You're not cackling over a cauldron, but you're still playing with his life, and the prophecy's shadow is as much your doing as Voldemort's. As you watch Harry from afar, his second year unfolding with basilisks and secrets, you know your secrecy will define his journey. You'll keep the prophecy hidden a while longer, letting him face dangers that test his mettle because you believe pain is the crucible for heroes. But in the quiet of your office, the portraits muttering about your choices, you wonder, when does protection become betrayal? You've kept Harry in the dark, and the darkness is closing in. You're pacing the astronomy tower, the night sky, a tapestry of stars above Hogwarts, each one a silent witness to the choices you've made. The prophecy's words echo in your mind. Neither can live while the other survives, a riddle you've wrestled with since Harry was a babe. You've kept it from him, let him stumble through dangers to toughen his spirit. But now you face your darkest secret. Harry Potter is a Horcrux, a fragment of Voldemort's soul lodged in his scar, and for the Dark Lord to die, Harry might have to die too. You've known this for years, felt the truth settle like ash in your chest, yet you've shaped his life to lead him to this moment. You've groomed him, his courage, his loyalty, his trust in you not just to fight Voldemort, but to walk willingly to his death. You tell yourself it's for the greater good, that the wizarding world's survival hinges on this sacrifice. But as the wind tugs at your robes, you can't silence the whisper. Are you saving the world or raising a pig for slaughter? A villain cloaked in a mentor's smile. You first suspected Harry was a Horcrux that night in Godric's Hollow, when Voldemort's curse rebounded, leaving a scar that pulsed with dark magic. You've studied soul magic, delved into forbidden texts in the restricted section, and the signs were unmistakable. Harry's parcel tongue, his visions of Voldemort's mind, the scar that burns like a warning. You could have searched for a way to remove the Horcrux, some ancient charm to spare him, but you didn't. Instead, you built a plan around his death, a chess game, where Harry's the pawn, you'll sacrifice for checkmate. You've orchestrated every step, his time with the Dursleys, to break his spirit, his Hogwarts trials to hone his bravery, even your own cryptic advice to keep him dependent. It's like crafting a wand knowing it'll snap in the final duel. You're not just guiding Harry, you're programming him to die, and the weight of that choice is heavier than the elder wand you twirl in your fingers. Picture Harry's journey each year a thread in your tapestry of sacrifice. In his first year, you let him face Quirrell, a child, against a Dark Lord's shadow, because you needed to see his mettle. By his fourth, you allowed him into the Triwizard Tournament, a deadly gauntlet, suspecting foul play, but letting it unfold to draw Voldemort out. You stood by as he battled dragons, knowing each brush with death forged him closer to your ideal, a hero who'd die for others. You're not reckless, you're precise, a potion maker, stirring ingredients with a grim hand. You even engineered his isolation in his 5th year, ignoring him to toughen his resolve, letting him drown in anger and grief. You knew he'd seek Sirius at the ministry, knew it might cost lives, but you let it happen because pain, you believe, is the crucible for heroes. It's like tossing a phoenix into flames, hoping it rises stronger. But Harry's no phoenix. He's a boy, and you're burning him alive. You're not blind to the cruelty. Late at night when Hogwarts sleeps, you sit by the pensive Harry's memories flickering like ghosts. You see his loneliness, his fear, the way he clings to you as a father he never had. You've made him love you, trust you, and that's your sharpest weapon. You've fed him stories of his parents, praised his courage, given him just enough warmth to keep him loyal. When you finally tell him the prophecy, you watch his face crumple, but you don't stop there. You guide him toward the Hallows, the resurrection stone, knowing it'll tempt him to accept death. You're like a Quidditch coach, rigging the game, ensuring your seeker catches the snitch at the cost of his life. You tell yourself there's a chance he'll survive Lily's protection. The blood tie with Voldemort might save him, but it's a gamble, and you're betting with a child's soul. You've got a loophole, of course. You've studied the magic, the way Voldemort's use of Harry's blood in his resurrection tethered their lives. If Harry dies, the Horcrux might perish without killing him, letting him return. But it's not certain, and you know it. You're banking on a theory, a flicker of hope in a sea of dark magic, and you're willing to risk Harry's life on it. You could have told him, prepared him, given him a choice. Instead, you manipulate him into hero worship, making him believe sacrifice is noble, that dying for the cause is his destiny. You're like a general sending a soldier into a minefield, whispering, "You'll be fine," while knowing the odds. You've turned Harry's trust into a weapon, and every "I'm proud of you" is a blade you sharpen for the final cut. But let's be honest, you're not cackling like Bellatrix plotting for power. You hate this the way it twists your heart like a rackspurt's sting. You've lost too much Ariana, your family, to relish this role. You tell yourself it's necessary that Voldemort's return demands a savior who'll die to save the world. You've seen the alternative, a wizarding world under the Dark Lord's boot, Muggleborns slaughtered Hogwarts, a ruin. Harry's death, you argue, is the only way to end it. But as you gaze at the stars, their light cold and distant, you can't ignore the truth. You're not just fighting Voldemort. You're using Harry, shaping him into a martyr without his consent. It's a villain's logic, dressed in a hero's robes, and the line between you and the dark wizards you fought is blurrier than you'd like. You've planned every detail down to your own death. You know your time's running out, cursed by a Horcrux ring, your hand blackened, your days numbered. So you orchestrate Snape's role, ensuring Harry learns the truth at the right moment, when he's ready to walk into the Forbidden Forest. You've left memory's instructions a path for him to follow, even after you're gone. It's like writing a script where the hero dies, and you're the director who never asks if he wants the part. You tell yourself it's for the greater good, but that phrase feels hollow, now a mantra you've leaned on too long. You've raised Harry to be brave, selfless. But at what cost? His childhood, his trust, his life, all pawns in your game against Voldemort. As you descend the tower, the castle quiet below you, think of Harry sleeping in Gryffindor Tower, unaware of the Horcrux in his soul. You've set him on a path to death, manipulated every step, because you believe it's the only way. But in the silence, with only your thoughts and the stars for company, you wonder, when does strategy become betrayal? You've made Harry a hero, but you've also made him a sacrifice, and the weight of that choice is heavier than any wand. You're not just fighting a war, you're waging it with a boy's life, and the line between hero and villain is as thin as a phoenix feather. You're standing in the summer haze of 1899, a young man with a mind sharp as a goblin's blade and dreams big enough to rival the sky. Godric's Hollow hums with life children playing muggle carts rattling, but your world is narrower, focused on Gellert Grindelwald, the golden-haired prodigy who set your heart and ambition ablaze. You're Albus Dumbledore, barely 18, and you're plotting a revolution. Together, you and Gellert dream of a world where wizards rule muggles bow, and the greater good justifies any cost. Your sister Ariana, fragile and haunted, lingers in the background, a reminder of your family's pain, but you push her aside for grander visions. This is your dark past, the shadow that stains your legacy. And as you shape Harry Potter's life a century later, those old choices echo, whispering that the villainy you accuse yourself of might have roots deeper than you care to admit. You met Gellert in a flurry of letters and late-night talks, his ideas sparking against yours like fiend fire. He's brilliant, dangerous, with eyes that see the world as a canvas for change. You're no innocent. You've read the same forbidden texts, questioned the statute of secrecy, and resented the Muggle world's ignorance. Together, you craft a plan, find the Deathly Hallows, unite them, and lead wizards to supremacy. You talk of freeing your kind of a world without hiding, but the subtext is clear. Muggles will be ruled by force if needed. It's like a Sith Lord apprenticeship, minus the dramatic cloaks, and you're all in. You scribble manifestos, debate ethics, and ignore the warning in your brother Aberforth's eyes. Ariana broken by Muggle cruelty, and your mother's death is a problem you'll solve later. For now you're drunk on power's promise, and Gellert's your match, your mirror, your first love. But it all crumbles. A duel erupts Gellert Aberforth, you wands flashing tempers hotter than dragon's breath. Ariana caught in the crossfire falls dead, her blood a stain you'll never wash out. You don't know whose spell killed her, but the guilt is yours. Gellert flees, leaving you with a shattered family and a heart full of ash. You're not yet 20, but you're already marked by loss. Your dreams of revolution buried with your sister. You vow to change, to fight for good, but the greater good lingers in your vocabulary, a ghost of your darker self. You turn from power, rejecting the minister's role, hiding at Hogwarts. But you can't escape the truth, you were once a villain or close to it, and that ambition still hums beneath your twinkling eyes. Now, fast forward to Harry's time, your robes flowing as you pace Hogwarts' halls. You're the wise headmaster, but your past shapes every move. You manipulate Harry just as you once planned to manipulate the world. You left him with the Dursleys knowing their cruelty, because a broken boy is easier to mould. Didn't you learn that from Gellert, who saw weakness as a tool? You keep the prophecy secret, controlling Harry's path, much like you and Gellert controlled your Hallows quest. You're grooming him for sacrifice, a Horcrux destined to die, and it's chillingly familiar you once justified Ariana's neglect for a grander cause. It's like you're still that boy in Godric's Hollow trading lives for a vision, only now your canvas is Harry's soul, and the paint is his pain. You tell yourself you've changed. You defeated Gellert in 1945, ended his reign, and swore to protect the weak. You've built Hogwarts into a sanctuary, nurtured generations of witches and wizards, and fought Voldemort's shadow with every spell in your arsenal. But as you sit by the fire, Fawkes watching with those piercing eyes, you see the parallels. Your manipulation of Harry, his trust, his loyalty, isn't so different from Gellert's charisma, bending others to his will. You've learned to cloak your ambition in kindness, your schemes in lemon drops, but the core remains, you're willing to sacrifice one for many. Ariana was the first, a casualty of your dreams. Harry might be the last, a boy you've raised to die. It's not evil in the cackling, wand-waving sense, but it's a cold calculus that smells of villainy. Picture your choices through Harry's eyes. He trusts you, sees you as the father he never had, but you're using that trust to lead him to slaughter. You let him face Voldemort's traps from Quirrell to the Triwizard Tournament, because each trial hones him for the final act. You ignore him in his 5th year, letting grief and rage shape him, just as you once let your own anger fuel your plans with Gellert. You're not blind to the pain, you see Harry's scars physical, and not in the pensive's glow, but you justify it as you justified Ariana's neglect. The greater good, you murmur, but it's a phrase you learned in darkness, and it's led you to break a boy who calls you mentor. It's like forging a sword, knowing it'll shatter in battle, and calling it craftsmanship. You're not without remorse. Late at night, when the castle's quiet, you wander the corridors, Ariana's ghost in every shadow. You think of Gellert now locked in Nurmengard, his dreams as broken as yours. You've tried to atone, saving Harry from Quirrell, guiding him through loss, but atonement doesn't erase the past. Your manipulation of Harry is a mirror of your younger self. the boy who'd sacrifice anything for a cause. You could have told Harry the truth, given him a choice, but that would have risked your plan, just as sparing Ariana might have derailed your revolution. You're not Voldemort hissing with malice, but you're not pure either. You're a man who's tasted darkness and learned to wield it softly, with a smile and a twinkle. As you stand in your office, the Elder Wand heavy in your hand, you know your past isn't just history. It's the blueprint for your present. You've manipulated Harry, shaped him for death, because you believe it's the only way to end Voldemort. But in the silence, with only your thoughts and the portrait's murmurs, you see the truth. Your villainy isn't in your intent, but in your methods. You've traded Harry's life for a world you may not live to see, just as you once traded Ariana's peace for a dream you never achieved. The boy in Godric's Hollow, hungry for power, isn't gone. He's just older, wiser, and better at hiding his claws. You're striding through Hogwarts' stone corridors, the echo of your boots swallowed by the castle's ancient hum. Torches flicker, casting your shadow long and lean, a silhouette of the headmaster everyone trusts. It's 1992. Harry's second year, and whispers of the Chamber of Secrets ripple through the school like a venomous current. Students are petrified. Colin Creevey, Justin Finch-Fletchley, even Hermione frozen by a basilisk's glare, their faces locked in terror. You know the danger, the legend of Slytherin's heir. Yet you're nowhere to be found when the crisis peaks. You've vanished, leaving the school to flounder under Lockhart's incompetence and the Ministry's meddling. You're Albus Dumbledore, the wizard who could stop this with a flick of your wand, but you choose absence just as you will later under Umbridge's reign. Your disappearances aren't accidents, they're calculated, letting Harry face the flames alone, and each one burns a question into your legacy. Are you a protector or a villain who lets the world burn to serve your plans? The Chamber of Secrets is no surprise. You've studied Hogwarts history, pored over dusty tomes in the restricted section, and you know Tom Riddle's hand in this. You remember him, the boy with the charming smile and eyes like a snake who you failed to guide. You suspect he's the heir, his diary, a Horcrux unleashing chaos. You could hunt it down, confront the basilisk, or at least warn Harry. Instead, you let events unfold, watching as Harry, barely 12, descends into a snake-infested chamber, with only Ron and a fraud professor for backup. You're not there when he faces Riddle's memory, when he drives a fang into the diary, nearly dying to save Ginny Weasley. You return later, all twinkling eyes and praise, but your absence during the crisis is deafening. It's like a captain abandoning ship mid-storm, trusting a child to steer through the waves. Fast forward to Harry's 5th year, and you're absent again, this time under Umbridge's tyranny. The Ministry's seized Hogwarts, Umbridge's quills carving scars into students' hands, and you're gone, ousted after the DA's discovery. You could have stayed, fought the Ministry's corruption, or at least rallied the Order to protect the school. Instead, you retreat, leaving Harry to face Umbridge's cruelty, the Ministry's lies, and his own grief over Sirius. You know he's struggling, visions of Voldemort clouding his mind, but you let him flounder, believing isolation will steel him for war. It's not cowardice, you're Dumbledore, who faced Grindelwald without flinching, but strategy cold as a Dementor's kiss. You're letting Hogwarts burn students suffer because you think Harry needs to learn through pain, just as you let the basilisk roam to test his mettle. You're not reckless. You're precise a chess master moving pieces while the board catches fire. You know Harry's the Horcrux, the key to Voldemort's end, and every trial basilisk Umbridge grief is a hammer strike shaping him into a weapon. You let him face dangers because you believe only a hardened hero can die for the cause. It's like forging a sword in a blaze, knowing the heat might crack it. You tell yourself it's necessary, that the wizarding world's survival demands a saviour tempered by loss. But as you sit in hiding the Order's safe house reeking of damp and secrecy, you see the cost. Harry's petrified friends, his scarred hand from Umbridge's quill, his rage at your silence there you're doing scars you've let others carve because you think pain is a teacher. Picture the consequences. In the chamber, Harry nearly dies, his arm pierced by a basilisk fang, saved only by Fawkes's tears. You knew the risk, yet you let a child face a monster because you needed him to prove himself. Under Umbridge, Harry's punished, ostracised, his trust in you fraying as he leads the DA alone. You could have shielded him, rallied the staff, but you chose absence, letting him grow through rebellion. It's manipulation dressed as trust, and you're a master at it. You're like a Quidditch coach who lets the seeker dodge bludgers without a broom, calling it training. Harry's survival is your victory, but each wound, each loss is a mark of your absence, a reminder that you've prioritized your plan over his safety. You're not without guilt. Late at night in the Order's grim hideout, you stare at the ceiling, Ariana's ghost in every crack. You think of the students petrified of Harry's haunted eyes and wonder if you've gone too far. You've always been the one to stand against darkness, Grindelwald, Voldemort. But now you're letting darkness touch those you swore to protect. You tell yourself it's for the greater good, that Harry's trials will make him the hero to end Voldemort. But the phrase feels hollow, a relic of your Grindelwald days when you justified sacrifice for a cause. You're not cackling like a Death Eater, but you're not pure either. You're a man who lets children fight battles you could end because you believe the war demands it. Your absences aren't just about Harry. You've left others to suffer, Snape spying in shadows, McGonagall battling Umbridge's decrees, even Hagrid exiled for crimes he didn't commit. You know the toll, see it in their weary faces, but you let it happen because your plan is bigger than any one life. It's like building a fortress with borrowed stones, knowing they'll crack under pressure. You've learned from your past, from Ariana's death, to keep your distance, to avoid the pain of loss. But that distance has made you cold, a strategist who sees people as pieces, not souls. Harry's your greatest piece, and you're moving him toward a checkmate that might cost his life. As you return to Hogwarts, the basilisk defeated or Umbridge ousted you, meet Harry's gaze, his trust frayed but not broken. You offer praise, a lemon drop, a hint of the prophecy, but you don't apologize for your absence. You believe it served its purpose, made him stronger, ready to face Voldemort. But in the quiet of your office, Fawkes's song, a mournful thread, you know the truth. Your villainy isn't in your intent, but in your methods. You've let Hogwarts burn, let Harry bleed, because you think it's the only way. The greater good you whisper, but it's a mantra that's starting to sound like an excuse. You're standing in the great hall, the enchanted ceiling, a swirl of storm clouds mirroring the tension of 1994. The Triwizard Tournament has brought Beauxbaton and Durmstrang to Hogwarts, their banners flapping like proud dragons. Harry Potter, just 14, stands trembling, as his name erupts from the goblet of fire, an impossible entry that screams foul play. You know he didn't put it there. His wide eyes and shaking hands tell you that much, but you let him compete, citing a binding magical contract you could have challenged. You're Albus Dumbledore, the wizard who could bend rules with a twinkle, yet you allow a child to face dragons, merpeople, and a maze rigged with death. You suspect Voldemort's hand, Barty, Crouch Jr.'s Polyjuice disguise, lurking nearby, but you let the tournament unfold a deadly gauntlet to test Harry's mettle. This isn't protection, it's a gambit, risking a boy's life to draw out your enemy, and it's another mark on the ledger of your villainy. You've known since Harry's first year that Voldemort's plotting his return. His Horcrux is a puzzle you're piecing together. The goblet's betrayal reeks of dark magic, and you've got your eye on Moody, his twitchy demeanour a clue to Crouch's deception. You could stop the tournament, declare Harry ineligible, or whisk him to safety. Instead, you nod gravely, your beard hiding a flicker of calculation, and let him step into the arena. You tell yourself it's necessary. Harry needs to grow to face danger, to become the hero who'll die to end Voldemort. But as you watch him dodge the Hungarian Horntail's flames, your heart twists. You're not just testing him. You're throwing him into a gladiator pit, a child against monsters, because it serves your plan. It's like tossing a first year into the forbidden forest and calling it a field trip. Picture Harry's trials, each one a brush with death you've allowed. The first task has him facing a dragon, his broomstick, a flimsy shield against fire that could char him to ash. You're in the stands, your calm facade masking the churn in your gut. You know he's outmatched, yet you let him fly, because survival will sharpen his courage. The second task sends him into the Black Lake battling Grindelwald to save Ron, his lungs burning as the hour ticks down. You could have ensured his safety, but you stand by letting him risk drowning. The third task is worse, a maze crawling with acromantulas and riddles, Crouch's trap pulling Harry to Voldemort's rebirth. You knew the risk, sensed the darkness, but you let him walk into it, because Voldemort's return will force the wizarding world to act. It's a cruel calculus, like betting a child's life on a Quidditch match and hoping he catches the snitch. You're not blind to the danger. You've studied the tournament's history, deaths, maimings, champions broken by its trials. Harry's underage, unprepared, yet you let him compete, citing rules you've bent before. You once charmed the Ministry to save Hagrid from Azkaban. You could have done the same here. But you don't, because Harry's survival will prove his strength, and his death, well, you've already accepted he might die as a Horcrux. You're like a potion maker stirring a deadly brew, knowing one wrong move could kill, but trusting the recipe. You tell yourself it's for the greater good that exposing Voldemort's return outweighs the risk to Harry. But as you watch him stagger from the maze, Cedric's body at his feet, you know you've crossed a line. You've let a boy face a Dark Lord's trap, and another paid the price. The consequences are brutal. Harry returns from the graveyard, bloodied, haunted, having seen Voldemort reborn and Cedric murdered. You see the trauma in his eyes, the weight of a war he didn't choose. You could have spared him this, stopped the tournament, or at least guarded him closer. Instead, you let Crouch's plan unfold because it forced Voldemort into the open, rallying the Order. You're not reckless. You're strategic, a chess master sacrificing a knight to expose the king. But Harry's not a piece. He's a boy, and you've scarred him deeper than his lightning bolt. You offer comfort, explain Voldemort's return, but your words are hollow. You've used Harry as bait, and the guilt gnaws like a bow truckle in your chest. You're not without remorse. Late at night, in your office, the pensieve glows with Harry's memories, dragons, roaring water closing over his head, Cedric's lifeless eyes. You think of Ariana killed by your ambition and wonder if Harry's another casualty. You've tried to protect him, given him tools like the invisibility cloak, but it's not enough. You've let him face death because you believe only a hardened hero can end Voldemort. It's the same logic you used with Grindelwald, sacrificing lives for a cause. You're not cackling like a Death Eater, but you're not pure either. You're a man who lets children fight battles you could prevent because you think the war demands it. Your gambit works in a twisted way. Voldemort's return galvanizes the Order, forces the Ministry to wake up, and proves Harry's resilience. But at what cost Harry's trust in you? Phrase his nightmares now filled with green light and screams. You've pushed him closer to his destiny, but also to despair, a boy who's seen too much death too soon. It's like forging a wand, knowing it'll splinter in the wielder's hand. You tell yourself it's necessary that Harry's survival strengthens him for the Horcrux hunt. But as you watch him grieve, his shoulders hunched under a weight you've placed, you can't ignore the truth. Your villainy lies in your choices, letting a child dance with death to serve your war. As you leave the Great Hall, the tournament's banners tattered, you know this is just one step in Harry's path. You'll keep manipulating him, guiding him towards sacrifice, because you believe it's the only way. But in the silence of Hogwarts, with only your thoughts and the stars above, you see the shadow of your past, Grindelwald's dreams, Ariana's blood, and wonder if you're still that boy trading lives for a cause. You're sitting in the headmaster's office, the air thick with the scent of parchment and the faint tang of lemon drops, your desk a fortress of secrets. It's 1943, and a young Tom Riddle stands before you, his smile polished, his eyes glinting with a hunger you recognize but don't name. He's 16, a Slytherin prefect, charming as a Vila, but there's a darkness in him, a shadow you've seen in the mirror, your own ambition, your Grindelwald days. Your Albus Dumbledore transfiguration professor, not yet headmaster, and you've been watching Riddle since he was 11, an orphan with a knack for cruelty. You know he's dangerous suspect. He's opened the Chamber of Secrets, maybe even killed Myrtle Warren. Yet you teach him, guide him, give him resources and let him grow into the monster who'll become Voldemort. Your inaction, your failure to stop him is a stain on your legacy. And as you shape Harry Potter's fate decades later, it's clear your neglect of Riddle wasn't just a mistake. It was a villain's oversight, sowing the seeds of a war you could have prevented. You first met Tom at Wool's Orphanage, a grim place reeking of damp and despair. He was 11 already, commanding with a knack for bending others to his will. You saw the signs, stolen trinkets, bullied children, a snake he spoke to like a friend. You could have turned him away, sent him to a different school, or at least watched him closer. Instead, you brought him to Hogwarts, gave him a wand, and taught him magic, knowing he craved power like a Dementor craves souls. You tell yourself it's fairness, that every child deserves a chance, but deep down you're curious. You want to see what he'll become, like a potion maker testing a volatile brew. It's not kindness, it's hubris. The same arrogance that drove you to plot with Grindelwald, and it's about to unleash a dark lord. Picture Riddle at Hogwarts, a star student, with a mask of charm. He's top of his class prefect, head boy. But you know the truth. He's manipulating peers, terrorizing younger students, and diving into dark magic. You catch him in the library, poring over Horcrux texts. His questions too sharp, too hungry. You suspect he's behind the chambers opening the basilisk's attacks Myrtle's death. You could confront him, expel him, or alert the ministry. Instead, you watch your silence louder than a banshee's wail. You let him frame Hagrid sending an innocent boy to Azkaban because you think you can handle Riddle yourself. It's like seeing a fire start and choosing to fan the flames, believing you'll control the blaze. You're not just teaching him, you're enabling him, and every spell you teach sharpens his claws. You're not blind to the danger. You've studied dark magic, know the signs of a soul twisting toward evil. Riddle's parcel tongue, his obsession with immortality, his cold detachment. They're red flags brighter than a Weasley's hair. You could have intervened, mentored him closely, shown him a path away from darkness. You've turned troubled students around before like Newt Scamander, but with Riddle, you hold back. Why? Because you're afraid not of him, but of failing again, as you did with Ariana, with Grindelwald. You tell yourself he's too far gone, that guiding him risks your own heart. So you let him grow a serpent in your garden because you believe you can outwit him later. It's a villain's logic cloaked in caution, and it's as deadly as any curse. Fast forward to Harry's time, and Riddle's become Voldemort, his Horcruxes a nightmare you're unraveling. You know your inaction helped create him, that every death James Lily Cedric is partly your fault. You're fighting him now, leading the order, guiding Harry, but the guilt is a shadow heavier than your robes. You see Riddle in Harry's eyes, not just in their shared parcel tongue, but in the pain you've caused. You left Harry with the Dursleys, let him face dangers, because you're repeating the same mistake, believing suffering builds heroes. Just as you let Riddle's darkness fester, you let Harry's pain shape him because you think it's necessary. It's like planting a poisonous vine and hoping it bears fruit. You're not cackling like Bellatrix, but your neglect has birthed a monster, and now you're using another boy to clean up your mess. You're not without remorse. Late at night in your office, the pensive glows with memories of Riddle, his young face. His questions, the moment you chose, silence over action. You think of Myrtle dead in a bathroom, of Hagrid exiled for a crime he didn't commit. You've tried to atone hunting Horcruxes, protecting Harry, but atonement doesn't erase the past. Your failure with Riddle mirrors your manipulation of Harry, a pattern of letting pain forge heroes. You could have stopped Riddle, guided him toward light, but you let fear and pride win. It's the same fear that keeps you from telling Harry the full truth, from sparing him the Horcrux's burden. You're like a healer who lets a wound fester, believing the scar will make the patient stronger. Your inaction has consequences beyond Voldemort's rise. Harry's fighting a war you helped start, his life shaped by a dark lord you could have stopped. You see the toll his nightmares, his losses, his trust in you fraying. You've made him a weapon just as you let Riddle become one, because you believe the greater good demands it. But as you watch Harry face dangers from basilisks to Death Eaters, you know the truth. Your villainy lies in your choices, letting a boy become a monster because you thought you could control the outcome. You're not Voldemort hissing with malice, but you're not pure either. You're a man who's learned to wield neglect as a wand, and the wizarding world pays the price. As you leave your office, The castle quiet under a starry sky. You think of Riddle, now Voldemort, and Harry, your chosen one. You've set them on a collision course because you believe it's the only way to end the war. But in the silence, with only Fawkes' mournful song for company, you see the shadow of your past. Grindelwald's ambition. Ariana's blood riddles rise, and wonder if you're still neglecting the darkness, this time in yourself. You're standing in the shadows of a windswept hill, the night air sharp with the scent of pine and sorrow. It's 1981, and Severus Snape kneels before you. His face a mask of anguish, tears carving tracks through the grime of his guilt. He's just betrayed Lily Potter to Voldemort, dooming her and James, and now he's begging for her life. His voice raw as a wounded animal's. You're Albus Dumbledore, the wizard who sees hearts as clearly as spells. And you know Snape's love for Lily is a fire that burns despite his Death Eater robes. You could cast him out, curse him for his treachery, but instead you seize his pain, twist it into a leash, and bind him to your cause. You'll use his love, his guilt, to make him your spy, your tool, a broken man dancing to your tune. This isn't compassion, it's manipulation, cold as a Dementor's breath. And it's another step in the path that marks you as Harry Potter's villain, a puppet master pulling strings of grief. You see Snape's soul laid bare, his love for Lily a wound you can exploit. You agree to protect her, knowing it's likely futile, Voldemort's too far gone to spare anyone. When Lily dies, you don't let Snape go. You tighten the leash. You demand his loyalty, his life in exchange for her memory. Anything he rasps, and you know you've got him. You turn him into a double agent, sending him back to Voldemort's side, where every moment risks death. You ask him to spy, to lie, to live in shadows, all for a boy, Harry, who carries Lily's eyes and James's face, a constant reminder of Snape's failure. It's like handing a man a knife and telling him to carve his own heart, calling it duty. You're not saving Snape. You're using him, his love, a currency you spend without hesitation. Picture Snape's life, under your command, a grim tapestry of danger and despair. He's teaching at Hogwarts, his sneer a mask for the fear that gnaws him. You send him to Death Eater meetings where one slip could mean torture or worse. You ask him to kill you to cement his cover, knowing it'll brand him a traitor to the Order. You're in your office, the pensive, glowing with plans, while Snape risks his life to feed you secrets. Voldemort's moves, the Horcruxes, the Death Eater's plots. You praise his courage, but it's hollow. You're not his friend. You're his general, and his pain is just collateral. You're like a potion maker, brewing with poison, knowing the brew will kill the taster, but perfect the recipe. Snape's love for Lily is your ingredient, and you stir it until he's nothing but a husk. You're not blind to his suffering. You see it in his sallow face, his eyes haunted by Lily's ghost. You know he loathes Harry, sees James's arrogance in every smirk, yet you force him to protect the boy, twisting the knife deeper. You could ease his burden, offer him a way out, or at least acknowledge his sacrifice. Instead, you keep him tethered, his Patronus a doe, Lily's echo a chain you forged. You tell yourself it's necessary, that Snape's role is vital to defeat Voldemort. He's your spy, your assassin, the one who'll deliver Harry the truth about the Horcrux in his scar. But as you watch him prowl Hogwarts' halls, hated by all but you know the truth. You're not just using his skills, you're exploiting his soul, and it's as cruel as any unforgivable curse. Your manipulation of Snape mirrors your treatment of Harry. Just as you've groomed Harry for sacrifice, you've shaped Snape into a tool, his life a means to your end. You left Harry with the Dursleys, let him face dangers because you believed pain forged heroes. With Snape, you use grief to forge a soldier. It's the same pattern, suffering as a crucible, love as a weapon. You're like a chess master, sacrificing pieces, knowing the board will bleed. You justify it with the greater good, that tired mantra from your Grindelwald days, but it's wearing thin. Snape's not a volunteer, he's a prisoner of his own heart, and you're the jailer locking him in a cell of guilt and duty. You're not without guilt. Late at night, when Fawkes's song is the only sound, you think of Snape alone in his dungeon office, brewing potions to keep his cover. You remember his tears, his plea for Lily's life, and wonder if you've gone too far. You've lost too much, Ariana, your family, to ignore the cost of your choices. You tell yourself Snape's sacrifice will save the wizarding world, that his pain will end Voldemort's reign. But as you finger the Elder Wand, it's a reminder of your power. You see the parallel. You once used Grindelwald's ambition. Now you use Snape's love, and both have left scars. You're not cackling like Voldemort, but you're not pure either. You're a man who wields hearts as wands, and the spells you cast break those you claim to save. The consequences are stark. Snape lives a half-life hated by students, distrusted by the Order. His only ally, a man who uses him. You ask him to kill you to protect Draco's soul and secure his role with Voldemort, and he agrees, knowing it'll damn him in everyone's eyes. You give him the memory to pass to Harry the truth about the Horcrux, ensuring he'll die delivering it. It's like sending a soldier into a dragon's lair with a paper shield, calling it strategy. Snape's love for Lily, his only light, is what you've turned against him, and when he falls, it'll be your doing as much as Nagini's fangs. As you leave your office, the castle's torches dim. You think of Snape risking all for a boy he hates, for a love you've weaponized. You've set him on a path to death, just as you've set Harry, because you believe it's the only way. But in the silence, with only your thoughts and the weight of your choices, you see the shadow of your past. Grindelwald's dreams, Ariana's blood, Riddle's rise, and wonder if you're still using love as a blade, cutting those you swear to protect. You're standing atop the astronomy tower, the night air sharp with the promise of a storm, Hogwarts sprawling below like a sleeping giant. It's 1997 and your hand is blackened, cursed by a Horcrux ring, a death sentence creeping through your veins. You're Albus Dumbledore, and you've spent decades fighting for the wizarding world's salvation. But now, you're facing your own end. Yet your mind isn't on your mortality. It's on Harry Potter, the boy you've shaped to die, and the philosophy that's guided every choice, the greater good. It's a phrase you've clung to since your youth, a mantra that justifies leaving Harry with the Dursleys, hiding the prophecy, letting him face dragons and using Snape's broken heart. You tell yourself it's noble that sacrificing a few saves the many, but as thunder rumbles, you can't shake the truth. This utilitarian creed, born in your Grindelwald days, has turned you into a villain, a man who trades lives like galleons for a world you may never see. The greater good is your compass forged in 1899, when you and Gellert dreamed of wizard supremacy. You believed then that a better world required hard choices, subjugating muggles, sidelining Ariana. Her death shattered that dream, but the phrase lingered, a ghost in your soul. Now as headmaster, you've wielded it like a wand, justifying every pain you've inflicted. You left Harry to suffer, because his resilience served the war. You kept the prophecy secret to control his path, letting Sirius die in the fallout. You let him face Voldemort's traps from Quirrell to the Triwizard Tournament because each scar honed him for sacrifice. You used Snape's love Riddle's ambition, even your own death, all for a vision of peace. It's like brewing a potion with poison, knowing it'll kill, but believing the cure's worth it. You're not cackling like Voldemort, but your calculus is cold, and Harry's the cost. Picture your choices, a ledger of sacrifices. You knew Harry was a Horcrux, his death likely necessary to end Voldemort. So you groomed him, loyalty, courage, a hunger for love, to walk willingly to his grave. You let the Dursleys break him because a desperate boy clings to your cause. You allowed the basilisk to roam Umbridge to torment because pain, you believe, forges heroes. You turned Snape into a spy his life, a currency for secrets, because his grief served your plan. You even neglected Riddle, letting him become Voldemort because you thought you could outwit him later. Each decision, you argue, was for the greater good, a world free of dark lords where Hogwarts halls echo with laughter, not screams. But as you trace your blackened hand, the curse's pain, a mirror of your guilt, you see the price lives shattered. Trust betrayed a boy raised for slaughter. You're not blind to the moral cost. You've seen Harry's scars, Snape's haunted eyes, the petrified faces of students you let suffer. You know your philosophy echoes Grindelwald's, though you've swapped domination for salvation. You tell yourself it's different, you're fighting for freedom, not power, but the method's the same, sacrifice the few for the many. It's like a healer amputating limbs to save the body, ignoring the screams. You've justified every choice with the greater good, but it's a mantra that's worn thin, a relic of your youth that's led you to break those you love. You're not Voldemort hissing with malice, but you're not pure either. You're a man who's learned to weigh lives like ingredients, and the scales always tip toward your vision. Your philosophy has shaped Harry's life most of all. You've made him a hero, but at what cost? You left him with the Dursleys, let him face monsters, because you believed suffering built strength. You kept him ignorant, manipulating his trust, because you needed him to die for the cause. You've seen his pain, his cupboard, his nightmares, his grief for Sirius, and yet you pushed him forward because the greater good demanded it. It's like forging a sword, knowing it'll shatter in battle and calling it craftsmanship. You tell yourself, Harry might survive thanks to the blood protection, but it's a gamble, and you've staked his life on it. You've turned his love for you into a weapon each. I'm proud of you, a spell to bind him to his fate. You're not without remorse. Late at night in your office, Fawkes's song, a mournful thread, you think of Ariana sacrificed for your early dreams. You see her in Harry, in Snape, in every life you've spent. You've tried to atone fighting Voldemort, protecting Hogwarts, but atonement doesn't erase the past. Your greater good has left scars from Harry's lightning bolt to Snape's broken heart. You know you're dying the cursor countdown, and you've planned your death to serve the cause. Snape's wand ending you to protect Draco's soul. It's another sacrifice, another piece moved for the greater good. But as you gaze at the stars, their light cold, you wonder, when does necessity become cruelty? You're not cackling like a Death Eater, but your philosophy has made you a villain in all but name. The consequences are clear. Harry's path to the Forbidden Forest where he'll face death is your doing, a road paved with your choices. Snape's life, a tapestry of pain, was woven by your hand. The wizarding world may survive, but at the cost of lives you've broken. You've justified it all with the greater good. But it's a phrase that's starting to choke you, a noose you've tied yourself. You're like a general who wins a war, but buries his soldiers, calling it victory. As you descend the tower, the castle's silence heavy, you think of Harry, unaware of the Horcrux in his soul, and Snape risking all for a love you've exploited. You've set them on a path to pain, because you believe it's the only way, but the greater good feels less like salvation and more like a curse you can't lift. You're sitting in your office, the firelight dancing across the portraits of past headmasters, their snores a soft counterpoint to the weight of your thoughts. The pensive glows faintly, a reminder of the memories you've sifted through Harry's scars, Snape's tears, Riddle's cold eyes. It's 1997, and your blackened hand aches, the Horcrux curse a ticking clock. You're Albus Dumbledore, revered as Hogwarts' saviour, the wizard who'll defeat Voldemort. But as you trace the Elder Wand's grain, you know the truth, you're no pure hero. You've manipulated Harry, used Snape. Let Riddle become a monster, all for the greater good. Now, as the war looms, you face a different question. Are you a tragic hero, forced into impossible choices? Or a villain cloaked in good intentions? You've justified every sacrifice, but the cracks in your legacy are showing. And as you prepare Harry for his final act, you must confront the defense that you're not evil, just a man doing what he must. You've never sought power for its own sake. You turned down the minister's role, fearing your Grindelwald days would resurface, that hunger for control you buried with Ariana. You've made Hogwarts a sanctuary, nurtured students, fought dark lords with wit and wand. You believe in the wizarding world's freedom, in a future where Muggleborns walk unafraid. That's why you fought Voldemort, why you've shaped Harry to end him. You saw the prophecy, knew Harry was a Horcrux, and built a plan to save millions, even if it meant breaking one boy. It's like a healer cutting away rot to save the body, knowing the patient will scream. You tell yourself it's necessity, not cruelty. War demands sacrifice, and you've carried that burden so others wouldn't have to. Picture your intentions, a tapestry woven with hope. You left Harry with the Dursleys to protect him, Lily's blood charm, a shield against Voldemort. You hid the prophecy to give him a childhood, however grim, before the weight of fate crushed him. You let him face dangers, Quirrell, the Basilisk, the Tri-Wizard tournament, because each trial built his courage, his will to fight. You used Snape's love, turned him into a spy, because his secrets could turn the tide. Even your absences during the Chamber's terror or Umbridge's reign were strategic, forcing Harry to grow to lead. You're not cackling like Bellatrix. You're a general in a war where every move costs lives. You've seen the alternative, Voldemort's reign, Hogwarts a graveyard, and you've chosen the path that saves the most, even if it scars your soul. You're not without remorse. You've wept for Ariana, for Harry's pain, for Snape's broken life. You know the cost of your choices, Sirius's death, Cedric's murder, the students petrified under your watch. You've tried to soften the blows, giving Harry the invisibility cloak, praising his bravery, guiding him with stories of his parents. You've planned for his survival, banking on the blood protection to let him return from death. It's a slim hope, but it's why you've never told him he's a Horcrux. You wanted him to fight with courage, not despair. You're like a father shielding his son from a grim diagnosis, hoping for a cure. You've sacrificed your own life arranging your death to protect Draco to keep Snape's cover because you believe the greater good demands it. But the defense phrase under scrutiny. Your good intentions don't erase the pain you've caused. You left Harry to suffer knowing the Dursleys' cruelty because you thought it'd make him strong. You let him face Voldemort's traps, risking his life because you needed a hero, not a boy. You used Snape's love turning his grief into a weapon because his sacrifice served your war. You neglected Riddle, letting him become Voldemort because you feared failure. Each choice, you argue, was necessary, but necessity doesn't heal scars. It's like building a bridge with broken stones, knowing it'll hold, but mourning the cracks. You've saved lives, but you've shattered them too. And the greater good feels like a hollow excuse when Harry's eyes meet yours full of trust you've betrayed. You know you're not Voldemort. He kills for power, you for peace. But the line between hero and villain is thin, and you've danced on it too long. Your intentions were noble, but your methods, manipulation, secrecy, sacrifice reek of the darkness you've fought. You've shaped Harry to die, just as you let Ariana slip away, because you believed the cause outweighed the cost. You're like a potion maker, brewing with venom, hoping the antidote works. You've tried to atone, guiding Harry fighting Voldemort, but atonement doesn't erase the past. You've hurt those you love, and as you face your death, you wonder if good intentions can ever justify a villain's deeds. The war's reality bolsters your defense. Voldemort's Horcruxes, his army, his cruelty. There's no gentle way to end him. You've seen what hesitation costs James, and Lily dead, Hogwarts threatened, Muggleborns hunted. Harry's sacrifice, you argue, is the only path to victory, and you've prepared him with care, ensuring he's brave, selfless, ready to face death. You've given Snape a purpose, turning his guilt into redemption even if it kills him. You've fought with every spell, every plan to spare the world Voldemort's shadow. But as you sit in your office, Fawkes tilting his head like he sees your soul, you know the truth. Your heroism is tainted by the lives you've spent, the trust you've broken. As you leave your office, the castle's silence heavy, you think of Harry unaware of the Horcrux within, and Snape risking all for a love you've exploited. You've set them on a path to pain, believing it's the only way, but your defense noble intentions, a war's necessity, crumbles under the weight of their scars. You're not a villain in the classic sense, but your greater good has left a trail of blood. And as you face the end, you wonder if heroism can ever be built on betrayal. You're standing in the ruins of Hogwarts, the air thick with dust, and the echo of spells, the castle's stones cracked like broken promises. It's 1998, and you're not here in body. Your portrait hangs in the headmaster's office. Your life ended by Snape's curse, a final act in your grand plan. But your presence lingers, woven into Harry Potter's every step, his wand raised against Voldemort in a war you orchestrated. You're Albus Dumbledore, the wizard who shaped a boy's life to save a world, and now, as the final battle rages, your legacy is laid bare. You left Harry with the Dursleys, hid the prophecy, let him face monsters, and used Snape's broken heart, all for the greater good. You've justified each sacrifice, claiming necessity, but the question remains, are you Harry's saviour? A tragic hero who did what he must, or his most evil villain, a manipulator who broke a boy for a cause? As wands flash and the sky burns your choices, your sins come into focus, and the wizarding world will judge whether you were its ember of hope or its darkest shadow. You've spent a lifetime crafting Harry's path, each decision a thread in a tapestry of sacrifice. You left him on Privet Drive, knowing the Dursleys' cruelty would scar him because a broken boy was easier to mould. You hid the prophecy, letting him stumble into dangers, trolls, basilisks, Death Eaters to forge his courage. You knew he was a Horcrux, his death likely needed to end Voldemort, and you groomed him to walk to that fate, his trust in you a leash you pulled tight. You used Snape, turning his love for Lily into a weapon, sending him to die for your secrets. You let Riddle become Voldemort, your inaction, a seed that grew into war. Each choice you argued was for the greater good, a world free of darkness. But as you watch Harry face Voldemort, his face pale but resolute, you see the cost. A boy who's known more pain than joy shaped by your hand into a martyr. Your legacy isn't just Harry's story, it's the wizarding world you fought for. You built Hogwarts into a beacon, nurtured generations, and led the Order against Voldemort's shadow. You defeated Grindelwald, turned from your dark past, and swore to protect the weak. You've saved lives, inspired hope, and planned for a future where magic thrives in peace. But the cracks show. Your greater good left scars, Harry's cupboard, Snape's loneliness, the students petrified under your watch. You manipulated those who trusted you, from Harry's loyalty to Snape's grief because you believed the war demanded it. It's like forging a wand from shattered wood, knowing it'll spark but never hold. You're not Voldemort hissing with malice, but your methods, secrecy, sacrifice, control, carry a villain's chill. Picture the consequences, a ledger of your choices. Harry's here facing death because you raised him to die, his love for you, a chain you forged. Snape's gone, killed by Nagini, his last act delivering your memory to Harry, a truth you used him to carry. The wizarding world fights, but it's a war you helped start, neglecting Riddle, letting him grow into a monster. You've saved millions perhaps, but at the cost of those closest to you. You're like a healer who saves a village, but loses the patient on the table, calling it victory. You believed in the greater good, but it's left Harry with scars, Snape with a grave, and you with a portrait's silence, your twinkling eyes dimmed by guilt. You're not without defense. You acted in war where every choice was a gamble with lives. Voldemort's Horcruxes, his army, his cruelty. There was no gentle path to end him. You gave Harry tools, courage, friends, the Hallows to face his fate, hoping he'd survive. You turned Snape's guilt into redemption, his sacrifice key to victory. You fought with every spell, every plan to spare the world darkness. But as you watch from your portrait, Harry's wand trembling, you know the truth. Good intentions don't erase pain. You've hurt those you loved, broken their trust, because you thought it was the only way. It's like building a bridge with blood, hoping it holds. You're not a villain in the classic sense, but your legacy is a paradox salvation built on betrayal. The wizarding world will judge you. Some will call you a hero, the man who saved them from Voldemort, who turned Hogwarts into a fortress of hope. Others will see a villain, a manipulator, who raised a child to die, who used love as a weapon. Harry's survival, if he makes it, will be your triumph, but his scars, physical, emotional, are your doing. You've left a world standing, but littered with graves from Sirius to Snape, each a mark of your greater good. You're like a star that guides but burns those who fly too close. As the battle rages, you wonder what Harry will think, if he'll forgive you or curse your name. You've given him a chance at life but stolen his innocence, and the balance is as fragile as a phoenix feather. Your legacy isn't just in the war's outcome, it's in the questions you leave behind. Was the greater good worth it, or was it an excuse for cruelty? Could you have saved Harry's heart, Snape's soul without breaking them? You fought for a world where magic thrives, but at the cost of those who trusted you. You're not cackling like a Death Eater, but your hands are not clean. You've shaped a savior, but also a sacrifice. And as Harry faces Voldemort, his fate, your final act, you know your portrait will hang in Hogwarts, a reminder of a man who saved a world, but lost those he loved. The greater good you whisper, but it's a phrase that tastes like ash, a legacy as much villain as hero.